Hello and welcome back to today's video. Workplace gossip. That is what we're talking about today. Yes, it may seem harmless at first, but for many managers, this is one thing that can disrupt the dynamics of a team and just cause issues, especially in today's world. Today's story is from a manager who, according to them, oversees 5 employees. 4 of these employees are fantastic, just like I said, according to the manager. But there is one of them who says different things. They gossip, they spread untrue things about different people, about management, about their fellow colleagues, and they are causing conflict. From this manager's perspective, despite numerous multiple conversations with this individual, they remain the same. They haven't changed their attitude, and this manager is feeling stuck. So, how do you handle a gossiping employee at work without crossing legal or ethical, lines? Before you say I am not a manager, yes, you might be aspiring to be a manager. You might even have friends that are managers and will be having issues like this. But because you don't have any, knowledge about it, they wouldn't be sharing it with you. So drop in the comment section if you know any of your friend that is a manager and is having issues with gossiping in their team. Let's hear how, they have been able to handle that without crossing the line. But today we want to talk about this real issue. How do you manage a gossiping employee in today's world? So let's talk about the story from the manager's perspective. This manager oversees 5 employees. They've had no issues with 4 of them, but one of them is always causing issues. According to the manager, they will gossip day and night. They would lie. They are so untrustworthy. According to this manager, they are stuck. They don't want to be heartless. They also say that this employee's housing is directly connected to their employment with the organization. So, more or less, if they terminate their employment or if they go through any issue, they might have housing issue. So this manager is in between trying to be ethical and also trying to be fair and considering this employee's situation. But as advisors, what do we say to this manager? There are different ways that gossip can affect a team. That is what we want to look at today from an HR perspective. How do we analyze gossiping and what is the damage that gossiping can cause to a team, to an organization, and even to the people that are involved? I'm talking about different stakeholders. I'm talking about the managers. I'm talking about the various colleagues. I'm even talking about that individual in person. So, what are these things? First things first, let's make this clear. Workplace gossip isn't just annoying, it can be frustrating, it can damage the trust, it can reduce morale, it can even expose the organization to legal risk. So, when you have a gossip, somebody that gossips in your team, and you don't want to do anything about it, these are some of the things that you're telling your other employees, because we know that gossip includes false information. That's the truth. It includes false statements about other people. In most cases, the person that is gossiping doesn't really have the full story. So they have either watered it or they have made it more by adding different things to the story. Which, what this can cause to a team, cause to an organization, is the risk of defamation. So people, that probably that their character or their personality has been defamed, who want to sue. And before you say anything, people hardly sue their colleagues. people sue organizations more because an organization will be vicariously liable because that other member of staff is a member of staff. So another thing that gossip does is that if gossip is targeted to specific individuals, it can then be tantamount to bullying and harassment, or create a hostile work environment, or even a hostile work culture, depending on the jurisdiction on the country that this story is from, or wherever you are managing from. Bullying and harassment is taken seriously in various organizations in various countries. So depending on that jurisdiction, if you're in a country where bullying and harassment is really huge, it's something that can bring employment tribunal claims and legal claims to your organization. That is why you have to look at dealing with it. So I'm saying to this manager, this is my personal, analysis and my personal advice to the manager. There are steps that you have to take to be able to look at this issue and nip it in the bud. The first thing that you have to do is to document every time that you speak with this member of staff, right? Document everything. Your conversation with them, the dates, the times that you've had the conversation, because they've said they've had multiple conversations with this individual. Maybe some of them are not documented, maybe some of them are documented. I would prefer if you have documented everything and put a timeline for that individual. So, for example, you've had that discussion with them and you say, I would like to see some improvements in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, documenting those and also reviewing them, monthly if you've got the time, or 6 weekly if you don't have the time. That is what you have to document. You have to document what they say, everything that that employee has said. You have to document it, and you have to also document your questions, the kind of questions. For example, you are giving them examples of an event that happened that you either observed or somebody reported to you. You want to document that. You also want to document their response. Did they agree that they said that? How sure were they? How did they get that information? All of those things. Please, documentation is key. And you might be wondering, why do you have to document it? Because eventually, if you decide to terminate, if you decide to take disciplinary actions against that employee, it is your documentation that will help you. It will show that you've been fair to that employee. It will show that you've given them opportunity to improve. And if you get to an employment tribunal, or if you get, to anywhere that is legal, you can show that, and that will be your protection against wrongful termination claims or discrimination. For example, if that member of staff is saying, you're discriminating against me, you are targeting me, you're picking up on me, those conversations, those documented conversations will show that you've given them numerous opportunities to improve and their conduct has not changed. Secondly, let's look at this in two different contexts, right? And I'm trying to buttress the fact why documentation is very important. In the United Kingdom, for example, employees with over 2 years of service have protection from unfair dismissal. And even now, there is an employment right bill that is being looked into, that they are trying to introduce to have that greater protection from day one for for staff members. So when you are documenting things, you are trying to protect yourself as the manager, and you're also trying to protect the organization in case that member of staff from all of that resign and then file for a constructive dismissal or a discrimination claim. That will protect you. Also, in the United Kingdom, there's something that they call the at-will employment. So what an at-will employment is either parties, either the employee or the employer, can decide to end the working relationship at any time without giving specific reasons. However, in an at-will employment, you cannot terminate for discriminations against the protected characteristics, which are age, race, religion, pregnancy, marriage, and all of those protected characteristics. Or you cannot also dismiss somebody for retaliation because maybe they've spoken up, or because they've picked up something that was wrong, and then you are retaliating, and then you feel like you can dismiss them. You can dismiss at will, but you cannot dismiss against these two futures. You cannot dismiss against them. That is why you have to prove that you have done everything right. You've given this person the chance, their conduct is not just acceptable, and they are not willing to change. That is one of the protection for you as the manager. The second thing that I'll say to the manager: set clear expectations. Yes, it's okay to say that I've heard a lot of gossip, people have come to report you to me, or this or that. But what is really important is that, what do you expect from that employee? That's the truth. And you have to set it. How do you set those expectations? You have to set things that are realistic. You can't tell them not to talk to people, because that's, alienating them, isolating them. But you can tell them not to discuss about other people, not to spread false rumor, and give them a timeline, where you want to be able to see that improvement. Just saying that gossiping is not acceptable doesn't really cut it. So saying gossiping is not acceptable, this is what is expected of you, these are the values of your organization, signpost them to the policies, signpost them to the handbook, signpost them to the values. What kind of culture, do you have in that organization? Then they will begin to be aware, because sometimes people are not aware of the things that they do. Just tell them and let those things be set out. Another thing that you have to do when you're setting out clear expectations is to let them be aware of the consequences if such behavior continues. It's very important that you let people know that, oh, this is a gross misconduct, or it could be a first written warning. If it continues, it will proceed to this, and if it continues, it may or can lead to termination of your contract of employment, because that is the policy of the organization. So you want to set those clear expectations. However, you also want to let them know what the consequences of the continued behavior will be. Thirdly, explore root causes. Yes. And before you jump straight into termination, or before you jump straight into feeling that this person's behavior cannot be changed, you want to ask those very pertinent questions. Why is this employee gossiping? One of the root cause of gossiping could be that they are feeling excluded from communication. Say, for example, you're having staff meetings, or you're having a town hall meeting, or you're having a team meeting, and this member of staff is not there. Maybe that's when they will be attending to a client, or maybe that's when they will do this. So that way, it's it's encouraging them to ask people questions, or to spread rumor because they've heard from different people, and probably gossiping. So you want to check if that's one of the root cause. You also want to check, do they lack work engagement? Because sometimes when people are not engaged in what they are doing, maybe because that's not the right job for them, or maybe they've had this compassion fatigue, over time they've plateaued out, they've done the same thing over and over and over again, and now they are just tired of it. So they're not engaged. If those are the root causes, those things can be treated, for lack of better words, those things can be mitigated against, so you can look at them and you can sort the problem. So if you address those root causes, you can sometimes turn the gossiping employee into your ally. But if that malicious gossip persists, then you know that it's their conduct, and there is nothing that you can do about it. Four, when it is time to let go. You need to know when it's time to let go. You need to know that, oh, I've done everything. I have been very nice to this colleague. I have given them various opportunities. I've checked the root cause. Are they ill? Is there something else? Is there an underlying health condition that is even causing them to gossip? Even though I don't know of anyone, but they could be. So if there are things, that's causing this, and you've checked that, you set clear expectations, you've had documented conversations with them, giving them various chances to improve, and you've done everything, guys. This might be the hard truth. Sometimes you need to let people go. That's the truth. If you've given them all of those opportunities, one toxic employee can outweigh the positive impact of 4 great employees. Research shows that negative behavior in teams spread faster than positive behavior. So if you don't want to encourage negative behavior, if you don't want people that have got positive behavior to feel as though, what's then the point of being positive, abiding by the values of the organization? You need to be able to let that one negative behavior leave your team for the sanity of your team, for the sanity of yourself, for the sanity of the organization. You need to be able to let them go. Lastly, when you let people go, you're protecting yourself and your team. And why I'm saying this is because from this story, the manager was feeling like, if I let this person go, their housing is affected, and I don't want them to be, stranded on the street without a house. So the manager was looking at that. But the manager was forgetting that by doing so and allowing this bad behavior or this bad blood to spread in your team, you're not protecting yourself and you're not protecting your team. I say to managers that as much as you're a manager, you're also an employee. Whilst you look after other people, you've got the responsibility to look after yourself. That's the truth. Everybody feels like the manager is the Superman, they are fine, they are well, everything is fine. But nobody protects the manager. It is the duty of the manager to protect themselves, to protect their mental health, to also protect themselves physically from, from reputational damage. For example, if somebody comes and say you are bullying them, meanwhile it's that person that is bullying you. So you have to protect yourself, and most especially you have to protect your team members, because that's one of the greatest reason, that's one of the greatest role of a manager, to protect their team members. By allowing this gossip to continue unchecked, you are risking losing high performers. That's the truth. You are risking damaging morale of your team. You are also risking damaging your credibility as a leader. So you need to think that why you're thinking of being a very lovely, heartful person, or you're thinking that if you let this person go, you're heartless. No, you're also being responsible by letting them go. To the manager that posted this story, you are not alone. Gossip in the workplace is is everywhere. Is one of the greatest and one of the most common challenges that leaders face. But with the right steps, right? With the right steps, you can protect yourself, you can protect your team, and you can protect your organization. For everyone watching, remember, leadership is not about pleasing everybody. You cannot please everybody. That's the truth. Whether you're a leader or you're a follower, you cannot please everybody. Leadership is about doing what is fair and what is right and what is consistent, not just for one person, but for the organization as a whole. If you have dealt with a gossiping employee before, please, I would like to hear your experience. I would like you to share your experience in the comment below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it insightful. Don't forget to share with your friends that are managers. They might be going through this and they are not saying it because you haven't, signposted them to the right thing, or they feel that you don't have the right answer to their question. So please share this with your friend. Drop your comments, drop your experiences below, and let us learn from one another on how to deal with this common experience that leaders face in the workspace. Until we meet in our next video, do have a blessed day and see you in our next one. Bye.